Sara's Weeknight Meals is made possible by USA Rice, Sunsweet, Hodgson Mill, and the generous support of...
Cooking is the first kind of love you know. It was starting when I was a child, with my grandmother doing fresh pasta, and now I transmit it to all the guests. It's something made especially for them.
Oceana Cruises, proud sponsor of Sara's Weeknight Meals.
Asian food is on the menu today, but it's taking a detour through the kitchens of American immigrants.
Certain dishes is definitely comfort food where it's like a safety blanket because it just brings back the culture, the history, the memories of eating that.
Hung Huynh is one of those immigrants, a Top Chef winner who brings us a dramatic backstory and a delicious Branzino recipe.
Fish should not smell like fish, it should smell like the ocean.
Smell like, let's take a quick whiff.
We'll see what other Vietnamese immigrants did when they landed on our Gulf Coast. Are you ready for Viet Cajun food?
It's sort of Vietnamese trial and tribulations in a little bag.
And I've got my own Asian American culinary mashup, Korean BimBimBap, with ancient grains instead of rice.
Yikes, isn't that gorgeous?
Asia meets America in the most delicious way. Today on Sara's Weeknight Meals.
Yikes, so good. Asian rice bowls are very popular these days, and no wonder. They're healthy, they're nutritious, they're filling. Yay. So I'm going to do a take on the Korean Bibimbap, which is a Korean rice bowl made with rice, but I'm going to put a few twists on it, and I'll tell you what they are in just a minute. So first I'm going to make a miso sauce, and actually that is not Korean at all, it's Japanese, but I love what it brings to the dish. We're going to start with my grated fresh ginger here, 2 tablespoons. Now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and it can be any vegetable oil that you like. I like grapeseed. We've got 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. This is unseasoned, which means it has no sugar and no salt added. 2 tablespoons of miso. This is red miso. It's fermented soybean paste, and it just gives such great depth of flavor. Now, here we have 1.5 tablespoons of well-stirred tahini. I put a little bit of vegetable oil in my measuring spoon before I started so that it would come out easily. Then we're going to add a tiny bit of sugar, just 1 teaspoon, and a tablespoon of water to thin it down a bit. And it is so tasty. I'm going to put my sauce into this pretty little bowl and let people serve themselves. Put a drizzle of this at the end of the dish. And this sauce goes nicely on grilled fish, on roasted vegetables. It's a wonderful dip. It has more legs than just this recipe. I'm going to park it down here and start the grains. There are all these wonderful grain mixes you can find at the supermarket these days. They're very healthy. And sometimes you can find the pasta that's made with ancient grains too, which is a little healthier than the pasta just made with plain old white flour. So today I'm using a mix of sorghum, and you probably know it as sorghum syrup, but it's a grain that packs lots of vitamins for you. Teff is another grain in here. It's the tiniest grain on the planet, sort of like me. And then last but not least, we have kamut, an ancient grain also, that brings a little bit of sweetness and buttery flavor to this mix. So we start by putting the grain mix in, and this mix feeds 3+ people, which is plenty with this grain bowl because there's so many other things in there besides the grain. And then I'm going to add a 1.5 cups of water. You could add broth if you wanted to, vegetable or chicken. This is a wonderful vegetarian dish, so you might want to stick with the vegetable broth. And then a tablespoon of oil or butter, and I'm adding some oil. I'm going to bring this up to a boil and then turn it down to a simmer. And then I'm going to give it 14 to 15 minutes, and then we let it just sit with the cover on for 5 minutes. So now I'm going to start cooking all my vegetables. First with carrots, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of vegetable oil. Again, grapeseed, my favorite, but you can use yours. And I've got some shredded carrots. You can buy them shredded, you know, like what goes into the coleslaw mix, or you can use the grating disc of your food processor or the handheld grater. Now I'm going to add a pinch of salt because it's important when you're cooking to season as you go. I've used carrots. I'm going to then add shiitake and spinach, but you can vary the vegetables in this. This is a very forgiving dish. So you can have the grains of your choice, the vegetables of your choice, and the protein of your choice. And we'll talk about the protein in just a minute. Okay, I can see these are getting tender, and I want them to not be mushy. So I'm going to get these guys out. We're just going to add them to our pan. So I'm going to put a little more oil in here, about 1.5 tablespoons, and add my shiitake mushrooms. I love shiitake mushrooms because they've got such great flavor and texture. And we're going to get these somewhat softened and then add the spinach just to wilt. And this will take a minute or two. Shiitake are very interesting, unlike other mushrooms, in that they don't give up as much liquid. Usually you put mushrooms in a pan, they stick, then they get all wet, then they lose their liquid, and then they're good to go. Shiitakes just sort of absorb the oil and then hang out without giving up much liquid. So I'm just going to add the baby spinach. I love baby spinach, and just let it wilt down. Kale would be very nice in here. Any other greens that you like, but it's nice to have greens in there. One of the best ways to eat healthy is you don't even need to know what spinach or mushrooms or anything does for you. Just eat the colors of the rainbow and you'll be safe. See how quickly this happens. Isn't that beautiful looking? I'm going to put this on our sheet pan, and I'm going to park it in the oven. I mean, if you don't need it to be piping hot, you certainly could just let it sit right here, and that would be fine. But I want it to be hot, so I'm going to put it in a low oven. Now it's time to brown the protein, and I'm using tofu today. And I've done this little trick that I learned, which is to weight it down. I got firm tofu. I cut it into 1/3 of an inch thick planks. I put the planks between paper towels. And what this does, these paper towels are now really wet, is it gets rid of all that excess liquid so that when I saute, the tofu is going to be much crispier. Put a little more oil in the pan to brown the tofu, and it will get a nice crust. So this is going to take about 3 minutes aside, and then we're just about ready to start plating. The last thing will be the fried egg. Well, that's finishing up. I'm just going to fluff up my grains. Oh, they smell wonderful, and they have such a nice texture. Now I'm going to put some in my bowl because I'm making a portion for me, and I'm going to put 2 pieces of tofu right on top. 2 per person. You see how wonderfully crispy those are. And now I'm going to get an egg in there. Here we have our nice hot vegetables. I'm going to put them on top of the egg just so that they can cook the egg a tiny bit. We go with the greens and the mushrooms and the carrots. Keep it colorful. Red peppers be wonderful in here. And now this is the last wonderful touch. Wow, isn't that gorgeous? Isn't that just gorgeous? So we'll just put a little bit of drizzle of this. I don't want to cover up that yolk. It's just too beautiful. Our scallions. Toasted sesame seeds, and last but not least, the hot sauce. And you just do sort of a stripy thing. Wow, I mean, yikes, isn't that gorgeous? And that is a healthy meal in a bowl.
Asian immigrants have brought us amazing foods and their own hybrid American cuisine. From filmmaker Joe York and Southern Foodways Alliance comes this story based in Houston, Texas.
South Vietnam and America, of course, had the relationship before the war, and when the war ended with the fall of Saigon, there was a huge adoption program practically, and Vietnamese were moved over here, and I think that we found the Gulf Coast to be not unlike our home.
A lot of Vietnamese people came from fishing background, and so it was a place where they could do something profession-wise. It was something they could do that they were familiar with from Vietnam and apply their skills. So I think that kind of helps people feel like they're more closer to home here in Houston.
We're about close to 300,000 of Vietnamese in Houston area.
Vietnamese crawfish started with Louisiana-style boiled crawfish, but the Vietnamese of the Gulf Coast took it another step, and they added some Asian aromatics to the boil, lemongrass and ginger, and they made a sauce out of butter and garlic and spices. They put the boiled crawfish into a plastic bag full of the sauce and shake it up, and then they deliver it to the table. So you get it like in a bowl with all this soup in the bottom that you can dip the crawfish in as you eat. And then they serve it with this spicy garlic butter and other hot spices on the side. So it's just miles hotter and spicier than typical Cajun crawfish.
We're trying to bring the two cultures in together. The two culture is from the Cajun side that represented Louisiana, that's we very close with from Texas. And then the culture of Vietnamese is very, very close with French. And then, you know, Louisiana Cajun food is very much a French colony. So we thought of it, and then we kind of put them in together, and that's how we come up with the concept.
We left practically with nothing, and so what we took with us were recipes and our memories of food, and so I think that those are the things that tie us back to our homeland. And I think the bigger context for Vietnamese crawfish may be, in a way, it's sort of Vietnamese trial and tribulations in a little bag. I think, you know, that we can lose a country, be in a new place, and still have the wherewithal to reinterpret something, create something new from something old, which I think is what we're doing.
From Vietnam to Texas, and food paved the way. That happened to another Vietnamese immigrant. Hung Huynh is our guest today. He's a Top Chef winner and an expert in seafood. We caught up with him in his neighborhood in the Upper West Side of New York City.
I think food is definitely a comfort. Certain dishes is definitely a comfort food where it's like a safety blanket because it just brings back the culture, the history, the memories of eating that. I was born in Ho Chi Minh City, which I know it as Saigon. After the war, everyone was broke and poor, and we'd eat bread and dip it in sugar, and that was what you ate, and water. My father escaped along with my brothers on a wooden boat. So many people drowned and died along the way, but their boat was obviously the lucky ones. Thousands of other boats sank. A lot of Vietnamese refugees needed help and sponsorship to come over to America, and my family was sponsored. And a folk singer helped my father start his first restaurant. And the kind of food they served was really my mom's cooking. She's very critical. She has an amazing palate. My mom spent her whole life in the kitchen to support us, to make it work, you know, and she works 7 days a week, every day, till 3, 4 in the morning. She handpicked everything. You know, I would go with her to the supermarket, and she would have the owner take out the boxes from the storage so she can pick through each one of the boxes. And it drove them nuts. I realized I wanted to be a chef when I was about 13, when I heard about the Culinary Institute of America. And I was so fascinated with chef hats and everybody's in white and everyone just, like in the military. I did pretty well in school. I was on Top Chef in 2007. Winning Top Chef was just an amazing feeling because when I was younger, my goal was to be famous before I was 30. And it happened when I was 29, and the feeling was like, wow, I've worked so hard, my family struggled so much, and I won. Like, my career is set. My philosophy on food is people need to learn how to taste food. The food is supposed to taste good, not mediocre, not just okay, not just the party aspect of it. Everything I cook is always inspired by something that I loved. I love seafood because even when I was a child in Vietnam, we eat a lot of small fish. I would just munch on the fish, eat all the bones, I like cooking it much more than meat because it takes a little more skill and you have to be a little more delicate with great techniques.
Maybe that one. Let me see the eyes. Perfect. Beautiful.
The message I want to convey in food is definitely that there's soul. There's someone passionate behind the dish. And I just hope they can see that, see the balance and the care that I put in there. Flavor is culture, I think. Like the Latinos say, sabor, it's like, it's soul, it's flavor,
Thank you.
Hi, Sarah.
Hung, hello. How are you? How's the train ride?
Looks good.
Take a little nap,
Yeah, I love trains. What have you got?
Some vegetables, lettuce, cucumber, tomatoes.
Oh, terrific. Come on in. What do you think of my garden? Isn't that something?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully manicured.
Just like me. I'm cooking sustainable fish today with Chef Hung Huynh. Tell me what we're making.
We're gonna make a roasted Branzino, marinated with garlic and herbs, and sauteed vegetables.
Yum. Very simple. Okay, so now why did we pick this fish?
It's a small fish, it's a bass, and it's farm raised, and so it's sustainable.
Yes.
I love eating smaller fish because it's sweeter in flavor. It's nice and clean. Right? Fish should not smell like fish, it should smell like the ocean.
Let's take a quick whiff. No, it smells wonderful.
Smells good to me.
Yes.
Smells clean to me, like clean
So
salt water.
after it's cleaned, we have this.
Right.
Okay, let me get it out of the way.
So I like to score the fish a little bit, just right to the middle of the bone.
And the point of this is so that the marinade,
Marinade
goes down
goes in.
And with those crevices, you'll get more flavor.
Right,
in
more
there.
marinade can go in and
Yeah.
it cooks a little more evenly.
And so here are our marinade ingredients. So I'm going to give you the garlic since we know. How much do we need? We need a couple tablespoons.
I need
right?
about 6 cloves, it's fine.
Okay. Why don't I zest the lemon while you chop the garlic? So we put our marinade in here to mix
Yes.
it up. So I'm going to chop up some parsley. We need 2 tablespoons of thyme
Okay, so
and use
thyme.
a 1/4 cup of parsley leaves.
Go ahead, pick up the stems a little bit.
Let me see. So the last restaurant you worked at was Catch.
Catch, which is based on seafood, locally inspired seafood.
But now you're moving on to your own place.
Now moving on to create my own brand and really promote Vietnamese cuisine. So I'm gonna go add some paprika in there.
And where are you going to have this restaurant?
Well, we're gonna start in New York City. There's
Nice.
there's several
So I can come.
locations.
Very good.
Definitely. I love olive oil and just be generous. Doesn't hurt.
All right.
Right? Salt.
I'm going to stir it up a little bit
Yeah,
here
please.
for you. And now you marinate these for how long?
You can marinate for half an hour. It's fine. It doesn't need to go that long because
If it goes too long, is that a problem?
not that big of a problem, but just gonna draw out too much moisture from the fish.
So the
itself,
salt will
right?
do it. Yeah.
I like cooking with my hands.
You must.
You have
do
to
it.
touch it and
There's
connect to
there's
it.
no better tool than
You know,
it.
you have to trust the chef. No
But
matter
if
what.
you're in a restaurant, you wear gloves. I know
Have to,
that.
yep.
But we're cooking for each other, so.
Yeah, go ahead and be generous with it. Stuff it in there.
I like this. This is wonderful. Oh, and you bake them
Put
that
it back
way.
up so it looks beautiful. It looks like it's still swimming. I'm gonna do the same thing to this.
And each fish is for one person?
Well, if you like to eat fish, you can have for one. For me, it's probably 2 fish per person, but.
You love fish. Is that your
I
favorite
love
thing?
fish. Look at
Okay,
that.
I'm going to put this in the fridge. You're going to hose down.
Yep.
And then we're going to go on out and just while this marinates, we can catch up and have a little drink in the garden. So I have a question. You won Top Chef Season 3.
Yes.
What did you make?
I made everything under the sun.
Tell me your favorite thing you made.
The favorite thing I made was sous vide duck breast with foie gras and truffle jus.
Ooh,
You know,
wow.
the compliment from the judges were it was a 3-star Michelin dish.
I love duck too.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
love duck.
yummy. We should go check the fish.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so this goes in a, what, 375?
Yes.
For how long?
20, 25 minutes.
All right, so now we're gonna make the sauce. And there we are with these sweet ingredients again. So interesting. Okay.
So I love blending soy with balsamic.
Really?
Because when you reduce the balsamic, it's a little tart, a little sweet. So I balance out with a little soy to give it a little more savoriness and more roundness
like
to the
that.
dish.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with
About a cup?
a cup.
And how much honey? About
2 tablespoons.
okay. Okay. And then how much soy sauce?
A 1/4 cup.
Okay.
We're gonna let it reduce to about half or to a quarter to a little thick where it sticks to the back of the spoon. You're gonna help me cut some vegetables.
Okay.
So onions and some tomatoes. And I'm gonna go ahead and get the garlic going while we do the
Okay.
onions. We'll go ahead and generously add about 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil.
In the pan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. For this dish, we're gonna cook the onions in a medium heat.
And then you're just doing a little julienne.
Julienne, yeah. I'm gonna add the peppers.
Okay.
Add the
Tomatoes go in?
Yes.
Okay.
Do that. All right.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna go ahead and cut the fennel. Add this in.
Mhm.
Why not? Then I'm gonna go ahead and add a little
I was gonna
more
say you
salt.
haven't added any salt
A
yet.
little salt.
Oh,
And
you
then we're
want-
gonna add some white wine for liquid.
Okay.
For another layer of flavor and acidity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be shy. It's only wine.
No.
And
Okay.
again, add a little butter.
Ah, you're gonna add it now.
Yeah, it's like everything glazed, reduced.
Okay.
Something-
Butter. You
Why
keep
not?
surprising me.
I know.
Want to keep me guessing?
I'm not shy, so if not, add a little extra olive oil
Add a
is
little more
fine
olive
too.
oil. Why
okay?
not?
Why not?
Yeah.
A little pepper, lots of pepper. I love pepper.
We should go check the fish.
All right.
Wow. This looks fantastic. What do you think?
It looks amazing.
Now, how do we know it's done, Hung?
Well, we can stick a little fork or spoon in there, and we can peek at it a little bit here. Almost, it's coming off the bone.
It's coming off the bone.
And the meat is not translucent anymore. See that?
Okay,
Look at it
yep.
falling off.
Okay.
How amazing that is.
Wow. Okay, now you're going to show us how to
Yep.
bone that out. But first, let's take a look at these vegetables. Those
Look
are
at that.
beautiful.
Now the tomatoes are broken up.
Let me get
You know,
a spoon just to
You know,
see.
and the wine and the tomatoes
Look
have
at
married.
how thick that is. That's
The
beautiful.
butter, the olive oil, it's
Yay, that's a
perfect.
home
Look at that.
run.
It's delicious. Look at that.
So that goes underneath.
Yes.
Well, that'd be good all by itself.
It's great by
The
itself.
vegetarians are all going, yay!
Minus the butter is fine too. Put
Oh,
extra
wait a
olive
minute.
oil.
Well, that's vegan.
right.
That's
yeah,
vegan.
exactly. There we go. Looks great.
All right, now take your time for those of us.
Take your
who
time.
Need to
I
pay
mean,
attention.
I'm just gonna go right on top by the
So we're going down the backbone.
backbone and slowly take it out.
Oh, that's so
But-
beautiful looking.
And it's okay if it's a little
Flaky,
ripped.
who cares?
It's okay.
Wonderfully moist.
It's natural. Look at that. Look how white the meat is.
And you leave the skin on because it's
Oh
perfectly
yeah, I love the
tasty.
skin. I mean, that's where all
So
the
really, nobody should be scared. Just
Oh, no.
know where the backbone is and
Right.
go down either side of the
Right,
backbone
exactly.
with your spoon.
So now, look at that. See the glaze is sticking to the spoon.
There we
Look
go,
at that.
yeah. It
So
coats the
now-
back of the spoon.
So now this gives it another dimension of flavor, another layer.
I like this. I like all these
know?
layers. This is much more exciting.
This is letting the flavor shine.
Yes, I
You
agree.
know,
We
and
agree on
Making
that.
it pop, making it dance.
Wow. Okay. Well, I've set up a little table in the garden. Let's go dine.
Yes.
So how do you like my garden here?
Beautiful.
I mean, wouldn't you love to dine like this every day? So do you mind serving me because it's so far away? We've got that, you're familiar with forbidden rice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's what they used to save for the emperors. It used to be so expensive, but it's really, really healthy rice. It's
got a
wonderfully chewy.
Different flavor. I love the chewiness.
Yes,
And-
here, I'm going to see if I
and
can do this.
fish.
Oh, you're going to hold it for me. How nice.
So there's some vegetables.
Oh, yeah, we love all these vegetables. So this would be a good dish, you know, do a whole bunch of them for a crowd, just like we did. And I'm even thinking this would be good at room temperature.
It's fine room temperature.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Ooh, yikes. So good. Wow. Thank you so much for joining me today, Chef Hung. And good luck on your new restaurant. Can't wait to come. I'm glad you're doing it in New York. And thank you all for joining us today to learn more about how to cook fish. I hope you're less scared. And I also hope that you choose those sustainable choices every time. Go to seafoodwatch.org. I'm Sara Moulton. I'll see you next time for Sarah's Weeknight Meals.
Cheers.
Why not? There we go. You know, I think the rice is good with this. What do you think?
I love it. Combination is great with the vegetables and chewiness of the rice.
Chewiness, because I mean, you know, you could serve this with white rice too, which is lovely, and I'm sure you like white rice a lot, but I just think the chewiness is good. For recipes and videos, go to our website, saramoulton.com. Sarah's Weeknight Meals is made possible by USA Rice, Sunsweet, Hodgson Mill, and the generous support of...
Cooking is the first kind of love you know. It was starting when I was a child, with my grandmother doing fresh pasta, and now I transmit it to all the guests. It's something made specially for them.
Oceana Cruises, proud sponsor of Sarah's Weeknight Meals.